She wanted to wear a wedding dress to my engagement party, so I made sure she fit right in. The photo hit my phone like a slap. Long, white, sparkling, a dress that belonged at the altar, not at my engagement party. For a second, I thought there had to be a mistake. Maybe she was joking. Maybe it was for a different event. But no, my half sister, Heather, was planning to show up to my engagement party in what was clearly a wedding dress she thought she'd won before the party even started. But Heather underestimated me. My name's Olivia, and at 24, I just watched my half sister try to hijack the most important night of my life. But while she's probably picturing me furious, humiliated, helpless, I'm not angry. I'm not even upset. I'm just ready because Heather has no idea what's coming. She's always been like this, always the one to turn every moment into her moment. Birthday parties? Somehow she was always sick or had some personal drama that needed all the attention. Family reunions? She'd make a grand entrance, ensuring all eyes were on her. And now, at my engagement party, she wanted to show up looking like a bride. I could already imagine her fake surprise. "Oh, Olivia, I had no idea it looked like a wedding dress. I just thought it was elegant." As if she didn't spend hours choosing that exact dress to make sure she'd be the center of attention. I wasn't about to let that happen. Heather wanted to be the star of the show? Fine, I'd make sure she was. I picked up my phone and started making calls. By the time Saturday rolled around, everything was in place. The venue was decorated, the music was set, and my guests, well, let's just say they were all in on the fun. Heather arrived fashionably late, of course. My father walked in with her and her mother trailing behind, all three looking smug, like they had already won. Heather stepped forward, her wedding dress catching the light, her train swishing dramatically behind her. She paused in the doorway, waiting for gasps, for whispers, for the sweet, intoxicating feeling of being the center of attention. But instead, nothing. No shocked expressions, no outraged whispers, just polite nods, a few amused smiles, and conversations continuing as usual. Heather frowned. This wasn't the reaction she was expecting, and then she looked around. Then she really looked around. Everywhere she turned, there were people dressed in extravagant outfits, sequined gowns, rhinestone-studded suits, a full-on Marie Antoinette wig perched on my aunt's head. My cousin showed up as a 1920s flapper. My uncle looked like he walked off the set of The Great Gatsby. And my fiancé, he was standing beside me, dressed in a powder blue tuxedo, grinning ear to ear. Heather blinked, then blinked again. "What is this?" she stammered, her voice just a little too high-pitched. "Oh, didn't Dad tell you?" I asked innocently, stepping forward. "There was a last-minute theme change. Costume party." Heather's face twisted. "What? Oh, yeah," my fiancé added, his grin widening. "And I have to say, Heather, that bride costume is just hilarious. I mean, really, so creative." Heather turned red. Her mother gasped, gripping my father's arm. "You set her up," she hissed at me. I tilted my head. Did I? Or did she show up to my engagement party in a literal wedding dress and it just happened to be a costume party? I shrugged. Guess we'll never know. Heather was seething. She looked around the room, waiting for someone to defend her, to tell her she wasn't overreacting, but no one did. Because the truth was, everyone knew exactly what she was trying to do. She had walked in expecting to be the most dazzling, dramatic person in the room. Instead, she looked ridiculous. Her big moment had been stolen right out from under her. And the best part, I never had to say a word. Heather turned on her heel and stormed out, her mother chasing after her. My father hesitated, glancing between us, but when he realized no one else cared, he hurried after them. And just like that, Heather was gone. The moment the door shut behind her, someone popped a bottle of champagne. Laughter erupted. The music started again. And for the first time in forever, I had a family gathering that wasn't about her. Heather didn't speak to me for weeks. When she finally did, it was through a dramatic social media post about toxic family members and how some people just can't handle sharing the spotlight. I laughed. She wasn't even wrong. I wasn't willing to share my own damn engagement party with her. My father, of course, took her side. You embarrassed her, he scolded. You could have told her directly instead of tricking her. Maybe, I said, sipping my coffee, but where's the fun in that? That was the last real conversation I had with him, after years of bending over backward to keep a relationship with a man who never once chose me first. I finally stopped trying. He made his choice, I made mine. My wedding day came and went, completely drama-free. Heather wasn't invited, neither was my father, and honestly, I didn't miss them. Heather had spent years trying to steal my moments, but this time, I stole hers. She thought she'd waltz into my engagement party, draped in white, and have every guest whispering about how stunning she looked, about how she should be the bride instead. She probably imagined people would turn to me, compare us, and wonder why my fiancé had settled for me when she was right there, glowing like an ethereal goddess in a sea of dull colors. It was a classic Heather move. Shameless, attention-seeking, pathetic. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of throwing a tantrum. No, no. That would give her exactly what she wanted. I had a much better idea. I called my cousin first. You're not going to believe this, I said, still staring at Heather's bridal monstrosity on my screen. When I explained, there was silence on the other end. Then, a sharp inhale. Oh, hell no. Her outrage fueled me. Within minutes, we were brainstorming, throwing out ideas, discarding some, tweaking others. And then, suddenly, the perfect plan clicked into place. I texted my mom next. New plan. The engagement party theme is changing. Costume party. She was on board immediately. My mom and her side of the family lived for over-the-top celebrations, and the moment she heard the words themed event, she was practically vibrating with excitement. Within an hour, I had a list of confirmed costume-wearing guests. By morning, my entire side of the family had enthusiastically agreed, promising to show up in full theatrical flair. My dad, however, was a different story. I kept my message to him short and simple. Just a heads up, the party is now a costume event. Let Heather and her mom know. I didn't ask if he would. I knew exactly how this would play out. My father was notoriously absent-minded, especially when it came to me. If it had been Heather's event, he would have sent a personalized reminder, a handwritten note, and probably a gift, just to make sure everything was perfect. But me? I was betting he'd forget to mention it entirely, or at best he'd remember to tell them hours before the party, ensuring Heather had no time to change course. It was a beautiful little trap, and all I had to do was wait. Over the next few days, I casually checked in with guests, reminding them to come dressed in something extra fabulous. I even made sure to gently guide my fiancé's costume choice. Babe, I mused one evening, you know what would be hilarious? If you dressed up as a ridiculous over-the-top prince. He grinned immediately. Like full-on fairy tale prince? Think powder blue tuxedo, gold embroidery, maybe even a ridiculous sash. He laughed, but I could see the gears turning. I could rock that, he said, nodding. Yes, he could. And standing next to Heather's wedding dress disaster, it would be perfect. On the day of the party, I barely glanced at my phone. I didn't text Heather, didn't check for updates from my dad. I already knew exactly how things were going to play out. Instead, I focused on making sure everything else was ready. A stash of last-minute costume accessories for guests who didn't have time to grab one. A playlist that screamed fun, playful energy, nothing romantic, nothing dramatic. A mental checklist of exactly how I would react when Heather walked through the door. I wasn't going to gloat, I wasn't going to be smug, I was just going to smile, act completely normal, and let her unravel all on her own. Heather had spent years trying to embarrass me. Tonight, she was about to experience what it felt like to be on the other side. Heather walked in like she was making her grand entrance at the Met Gala. Late, of course, just late enough to ensure everyone was already settled so she could maximize the number of heads that turned when she stepped through the door. And that dress, I had seen the picture, but seeing it in person, somehow it was even worse. The fabric shimmered obnoxiously under the lights, the golden accents catching and throwing reflections like some kind of human disco ball. The bodice was tight, the skirt flowing dramatically behind her, the tiny crystals embedded into the fabric making her sparkle with every movement. It was unmistakable. She hadn't just worn a white dress, she had worn a wedding dress to my engagement party. I could already hear the internal monologue running through her head. Oh, is this too much? Gosh, I didn't even realize. I just thought it was a beautiful dress. She was waiting for people to react, for the gasps, the whispers, for anyone to lean over and murmur, "Wow, doesn't she look amazing?" Instead, silence. Not the kind of stunned silence she wanted. No, this was the awkward, stifling silence of a plan gone horribly wrong. Because instead of looking like a radiant bride, Heather looked ridiculous. Everywhere she turned, she was surrounded by sequins, feathers, wigs, and full-blown theatrical costumes. The subtle way she was trying to be the most overdressed person in the room had completely backfired. She wasn't standing out, she was blending in. I watched the realization dawn on her face in real time. First, confusion, a little tilt of the head, a blink like maybe her eyes were deceiving her, then the dawning horror. Her mouth opened just slightly. Her eyes darted from guest to guest. My cousin, resplendent in an old Hollywood gown. My uncle, dressed as a flamboyant magician. My fiancé, who, God bless him, was fully committed to his powder blue prince look. Heather's hands clenched into fists at her sides. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to be the most dazzling, elegant person in the room. She was supposed to turn heads, steal attention, make me look dull and forgettable in comparison. Instead, she was just another guest in an over-the-top outfit. And then, the final blow. My fiancé walked over, flashing his signature charming smile. "Heather," he said cheerfully, "wow, you really committed to the theme. That bride costume is hilarious." Heather's eye twitched, the color drained from her face. For the first time in her entire life, she didn't have a snappy comeback. Her mother, who had been standing at her side like an overly ambitious pageant coach, finally spoke up. "Wait," she said, her voice sharp. "What's going on here?" I smiled sweetly. "Didn't Dad tell you? There was a last-minute theme change. It's a costume party." I could see it the exact moment Heather realized I had played her. Her face flashed red. Her mother gasped. My dad, who was only now registering the situation, cleared his throat uncomfortably, his eyes darting toward the exit. He knew he had screwed up. Heather turned to me, eyes blazing. "You did this on purpose." I tilted my head innocently. "What do you mean?" She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Oh, come on, Olivia. You really expect me to believe this was a coincidence?" I shrugged, pretending to think it over. "I mean, I guess you could see it that way, but honestly, Heather, I thought you'd have more fun with this. I mean, if I knew you were going to wear a wedding dress, I would have suggested a groom costume for your date just to complete the look." Someone snorted. My aunt. Heather's face twisted. Her mother opened her mouth, probably to unleash some kind of furious rant, but before she could, my fiancé clapped a hand on my shoulder and grinned. "Well, either way, you nailed it, Heather. I mean, this is commitment. The veil, the train, genius." Heather looked like she was about to spontaneously combust. She stormed out 5 minutes later, her mother screeching after her. My dad hesitated, glancing between me and the door, but ultimately, predictably, he chose to run after Heather. And you know what? I didn't care, because for the first time in years, I had a family event that wasn't about her. The moment the door shut behind them, someone popped a bottle of champagne, music blasted through the speakers, laughter rippled through the room, and I let myself breathe, because finally Heather had felt what it was like to be overshadowed. And the best part, I didn't even have to lift a finger. The dramatic sweep of her train, the furious stomp of her designer heels, the way her mother shrieked about disrespect and sabotage, while my dad trailed behind looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. It was everything I could have hoped for. But I wasn't done yet. Because Heather, she wasn't just going to leave angry, she was going to leave humiliated. As soon as the door slammed behind her, my fiancé turned to me, eyes gleaming. Well, he said, raising his champagne glass. That went even better than expected. Laughter rippled through the room, and the tension that had hung in the air shattered. People started talking again, dancing, drinking, actually enjoying the night without Heather sucking the energy from the room. And me, I was just getting started. I made my way over to the DJ booth and leaned in close. Change of plans, I murmured, grinning. Play it. The DJ's face lit up. 30 seconds later, the speakers blasted Chapel of Love. Go into the chapel, and we're gonna get married. The timing was chef's kiss. The second verse had barely started before the door flew open again. Heather, her veil was crooked, her mascara smeared, and her rage, oh, it was delicious. She stormed back inside, voice shrill enough to shatter glass. Are you serious, Olivia? Really? I blinked, feigning innocence. Oh, Heather, you came back. We thought you left. Her hands shook. You... Oh, and the song? I gestured vaguely at the speakers. Total coincidence, DJ's choice. The DJ gave her a thumbs up from across the room. Heather made a sound somewhere between a growl and a scream, and then she did the one thing that sealed her fate forever. She grabbed a glass of red wine from a passing waiter and threw it. Not at me. No, no. That would have been too obvious. She threw it at my fiancé. Heather, in all her melodramatic, attention-hungry glory, had just assaulted the groom-to-be in front of everyone. And the best part, she missed. The wine sailed right past him and hit my aunt, who was wearing a head-to-toe white lace costume. The exact moment the deep red stains spread across the fabric, silence fell. Heather froze. My aunt? She took off her oversized sunglasses, stared down at the mess, and exhaled slowly. Then, in the calmest, most terrifying voice I've ever heard, she said, "You absolute little brat." Heather turned ghost white. Her mother gasped so loudly I thought she might pass out, and my dad, he closed his eyes, defeated. Because in our family, you don't mess with Aunt Linda. Heather knew she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. The rest of the night, perfect. Heather and her mother left for real this time, escorted out by my dad, who looked like he was finally rethinking every life decision that led him to this moment. Aunt Linda took it personally. She spent the next hour on the phone, calling every single relative, dramatically recounting the scene to whoever would listen, which unfortunately for Heather was everyone. By the time the party wrapped up, Heather's little stunt was already family legend. Did you hear? Heather showed up in a literal wedding dress. Then she had a tantrum when no one cared, and then she threw wine at the groom but ended up ruining Linda's dress instead. Her reputation ruined, her plan destroyed, and me, I sipped my champagne, feeling positively radiant. Because Heather had spent years trying to make me feel small, and tonight, she made a fool of herself instead. For years, she had thrived on being the center of attention, on twisting every situation to favor her. She had perfected the art of making herself look like the victim while making everyone else look unreasonable. But that night, she lost control of the narrative because no matter how she tried to spin it, no matter how many crocodile tears she shed, the facts remained. She wore a wedding dress to my engagement party. She threw a tantrum when no one paid attention to her. She threw wine at my fiancé and instead hit Aunt Linda. And if there was one thing you never did in my family, it was piss off Aunt Linda. By the time Heather and her mother had dramatically fled the party, their reputations were already in shambles. Aunt Linda wasted no time making calls. Within an hour, the entire extended family knew what had happened. By the next morning, the story had spread to every social circle Heather had ever been a part of. Did you hear? Heather tried to upstage Olivia at her own engagement party. Oh my God. And she threw wine at someone? Serves her right. She always acted like she was better than everyone else. Heather, the golden girl, was finally exposed for what she really was, a desperate, attention-seeking mess. She tried damage control. She made a pathetic social media post the next day. Some people just can't handle sharing the spotlight. I guess not everyone is secure enough to handle a little healthy competition. The comments destroyed her. My cousin immediately replied, "Girl, you showed up in a whole ass wedding dress to someone else's engagement party. That's not competition, that's delusion." Her best friend, "Wait, you actually wore a wedding dress? I thought people were exaggerating." One of her exes, who she had cheated on, mind you, jumped in with, "This explains so much." The post was deleted within an hour. But Heather's suffering wasn't over. The next time my dad invited me to a family dinner, I declined. Politely, of course. I think it's best if I keep my distance for a while. I just want peace. I could hear the panic in his voice. "Olivia, don't be like this. Heather, she made a mistake." I sighed, keeping my voice calm. "Dad, she's been making mistakes my entire life, and you've always excused them. You always expect me to be the bigger person, the one who forgives, the one who lets it go." He didn't have an answer for that. Because he knew I was right, that was the last time I bothered trying. And guess what? Heather wasn't his problem anymore. She was Mom's. Now that I had cut them off, Heather had no one else to compete with, no one to try and one up, no one to fix her mistakes for her. Without me in the picture, my mother finally saw Heather for who she was. "She's been unbearable," Mom admitted to me a few weeks later. "Ever since you stopped talking to her, she's been acting out more and more. It's like she doesn't know what to do with herself." I just smiled. "Guess she'll have to find someone else to play second place to." The best part? My wedding day was absolutely perfect. No Heather, no drama, no manufactured crises, just me, my husband, and the people who actually loved and supported us. And the cherry on top, while I was getting ready, sipping champagne with my bridesmaids, I got a text from Heather. "I hope you know that cutting me out of your wedding just proves how petty you are. I was willing to forgive you for humiliating me at your engagement party, but you just had to be the bigger beat, Chi, didn't you? Whatever. Enjoy your boring, basic wedding." I just laughed and turned off my phone because there's no greater revenge than not caring at all. Months passed, then a year. Heather's life didn't magically improve. She kept burning bridges, kept playing the victim, kept wondering why people stopped putting up with her. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I was happily married. I had an incredible support system, and I never had to deal with Heather's nonsense again. But every now and then, I'd hear updates, like how Heather had tried to pull the same stunt at another event, this time a friend's engagement party. Except this time, the bride kicked her out on the spot. Or how my father had finally stopped defending her when she turned on him. Or how she had lost more and more people in her life until she had no one left to manipulate. And the funniest part, she still couldn't understand why. Heather spent years trying to make me feel like I wasn't enough. In the end, she was the one who was left completely alone. What's the lesson here? Karma always comes for the people who deserve it. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to scream, beg, or demand your worth. You just need to sit back, watch, and let people ruin their own lives. Because the best revenge is simply living well.